Cool. So A Time for Giving is one of 2 original compositions on your home EP. What inspired the track?
So for me, the inspiration for A Time for Giving was bells, Christmas bells. I really wanted to write something that just sounded bell-like. I think great composer Arvo Pärt has this phrase, tintinnabulation, and I wanted to have a piece that really spoke of that and heralded Christmas in that way. So the idea of and then to come so come out of the bells into a continuation of melody is something I wanted to do. So for me, that was always going to be the natural starting point, just to have that sound of innocence as well and simplicity, and then for the song to evolve in only the way that it could evolve. So without me getting in the way of it, how would that sound? And so I tried to take myself away from the natural evolution of the song as much as possible. And actually that's something I try to do a lot with my music, is just try to step outside of it and allow it to write itself.
Nice. I mean, the one thing that I really heard was all these like really satisfying cadences. Does that come back to the bell-like?
I think so, yeah. And you know, there's, I'm trying to think of those satisfying cadences now, but there's one. Then a perfect. And just so simple, but it couldn't be any other way. And I think it's just that ability just to stand away from it and allow it to play out.
Brilliant. And the melody, like it's funny that you talk about bells, because sometimes I think of bells as not necessarily the warmest instrument, but it's a really warm sound that you've made with this track.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to do. And I love those songs. And they could be any songs from any era, really, but songs which are just so beautifully crafted. And I'm thinking of, the great Frank Sinatra classics, Nat King Cole, Marvin Gaye, Ed Sheeran, Schubert. I don't think there's any distinction in terms of genres. Just beautifully crafted songs. It could extend to Lieder as well. And you just think, my goodness me, that couldn't have been written any other way. And I think that just the ability to sometimes step outside, because I think composers, we have a tendency to tinker. And sometimes not always in the service of the music. But with this album, I wanted to evoke that sense of innocence, this EP, that sense of innocence and simplicity, childlike wonder. And those movies that, I don't know whether you ever watched these movies, as a youngster, the great black and white movies where you just come away thinking, oh, I just feel so cleansed. I'm ready for Christmas now. And, I'd love to think that people could put on that particular track and think, you know what, I'm ready for Christmas.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, I feel ready for Christmas.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. There's also quite a lot of quiet moments in the piece. Like I noticed when I was listening to the track, there was quite a lot of space between some of the themes. Like, was there any specific reason for this, or were you just letting the music kind of breathe?
Well, I liked to compose music that's worthy of silence. And I think that's probably the best kind of music. Just, if you listen in a chapel or a church or just a beautiful space such as this, and you can just sit there with your thoughts, but also you're just so aware of the natural acoustics and the beauty of the silence. So quite often in my music, I'm trying to be worthy of that silence, the silence that precedes it or the silence that goes in between. And I wanted to give space for that silence in the track, so that actually there could be beauty forms around it and after it. So yes, I was ever so conscious of that.
Nice. And what was the inspiration for the title of the track, A Time for Giving?
I think Christmas, it's obviously a very magical time. It's a time that, if we're lucky, we get to spend it with loved ones. It can also be a very lonely time for people if they've lost people, if they're missing people, particularly at Christmas. And I'm just aware that it's a time that we can all give a piece of ourselves, if it's not to our family, maybe think about others, perhaps not as fortunate. And so it's a sentiment I think is ever so important at this time of year.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing was when I was looking for your track on Spotify, the second thing, so yours was the first result. The second result was Cliff Richard's Mistletoe and Wine.
Great track.
Great track.
Good track. Cliff, I mean, there's a master. You know, I was watching him the other day, Cliff Richard, my wife and I, just on TV, just on the box in concert. He really knows how to sell a song, doesn't he? So I would say I'm in extremely good company there with Cliff Richard, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, yeah. And do you have any other thoughts or reflections on this track?
Just that, again, I'm proud that I was able to get out of its way and allow it to just evolve, and for the simplicity of it just to come out as it did.
Amazing.